Welcome back to my channel where we get music educators bent out of shape one video at a time. Seriously, the amount of furious DMs and emails I'm getting.
You're oversimplifying stuff. You're oversimplifying complex concepts.
No shit, Sherlock. It's YouTube. It's a starting point for people. And you're gonna hate today's video. Because today we're going to talk about harmony, and specifically the way I think about harmony when I harmonize a melody. Because to me, traditional harmony theory is really just good for backwards analysis. Like once a piece is done, analyzing, figuring out how it was put together, how the chords relate to one another. I mean, harmony theory did not exist for a long time. It's just something we made up to understand what has happened before us in music, right? It's to explain the things that already existed. It's not like harmony theory was there first. It wasn't. It's just a tool to better understand the relations of the chords in a piece. But so, for me, it was never great as a tool to write music. Because to write music, you have to think forward and not backward, for the most part. Unless you're doing counterpoint, then sometimes you gotta think backward. Doesn't matter. For the most part, I want to think forward when I'm writing music. And so I needed to start thinking about it differently, and I was struggling with this for a long time. And no, I will not make a video about traditional harmony theory. I don't hate myself enough for that. Like, there's plenty of books and channels already discussing that, by people that know a lot more about this than I do. So seek out their resources for that. But so here's how I think about harmony and how I apply it when writing music. And as usual, the MIDI that I'm going to show is going to be up on Buy Me a Coffee, yada, yada, yada. Same deal as always. So when I was at conservatory, I was really struggling with harmony. I was always good at writing melodies, but I was struggling with harmonizing them in an interesting way. And at conservatory, I always tried to use more and more of the theory that we were learning in our music theory classes. But my problem was that I had a hard time applying it to the act of writing music. Like I said, I loved it for analyzing what someone else has done, but not so much for the writing part. And so, my composition teacher noticed, and he was like, well, your chord progressions always end up kind of boring, and, or you're trying too much. And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to apply the theory, but I just can't really, get that in there properly. And if I just go by intuition, then usually my chord progressions are just really simple and kind of a bit boring. So I'm struggling with that. And he was like, well, how about this? Forget all the theory. I was like, done. I'm here for this explanation. And he said, forget about all that. Don't think about harmony theory and how chords relate to one another and all that while you're writing music. Write your melody, and then just think about it this way. Every note of the melody can be harmonized. Like a Bach chorale, for example. Doesn't have to be harmonized, but that's how you can think about it. And then think about how every note can basically, in its most basic sense, be one of three things. It can be the root of a chord, the third, or the fifth. That's it. And then if you want to go really spicy, obviously it can also be a 7, a 9, sharp 11, 13, a sus, whatever. Sure, you can go there later. But for starters, just think about it as one of three things. And then don't think about harmony theory, just write down your melody and then put down all kinds of variations, and then you just pick the one that you like best. Respectfully, what the fuck, bitch? You're telling me I've been learning all this theory, and then he's like, just forget about that. Just forget about the theory, because that's kind of hampering your writing. And if your intuition isn't immediately coming up with like nice, spicy chord progressions that you want, this is just go about it. Why aren't we teaching it that way right from the start, and then do the harmony theory later? And this is so straightforward. It's so simple. It's such a simple way of thinking about it. And I I don't know why I hadn't come up with that. I guess at conservatory I just thought everything has to be complicated and everything has to be, you know, done in an academic way. And then my teacher was like, does it though? So here we are, passing on the wisdom. Let me show you just the basic concept in the DAW. And then I'll also show you how I apply it to like a melody fragment, so you can see it in action actually. So what you're seeing here, so I've made a piano part, I kind of put in the chord progressions. Cubase isn't really capable of naming them all properly, but it's fine for our purposes. And markers about what's happening here. And you will hear this C throughout the entire thing. You will hear this. But the chord around the C will keep changing and recontextualizing it, so you can see what happens to the C by changing everything else. Also disregard the scales. It doesn't matter. It's a Cubase thing. It's trying with the theory. So are we. I get it. Same, Cubase. But so I'm going to play through the whole thing and I will announce in every break what's going to happen next, what you're going to hear next. And so for every single one, you have a major version and a minor version, save for a couple that just don't have a major minor version. And I will also play through having the root in the bass, the third in the bass, and the fifth in the bass every time. So you really get all the variations that you can have. Oh, and I also have some strings going on in the back just to give like a better sense of what it would sound like with the string section. So the first one is going to be, the C is the root note, C major, C minor. Next up, C is the third of the chord. Next up, C is the fifth of the chord. Next up, C is the minor seventh of the chord. Next up, C is the major seventh of the chord. Next up, C is the major 9. Next up, C is the flat 9. Next up, C is the sharp 11. Next up, C is the flat 13 or added 6. Next up, we got C in symmetrical chords, diminished and augmented. Next up, we got C in half diminished chords. And there we go. Those are the chords. And obviously any of these can also be part of polychords, which I have a whole nother video about. If you haven't watched that yet, go ahead. But that's it. And so what I do when I start a movie and I'm writing themes is I will write the melody away from chords and anything chord related. I will just hum the melody and walk around until I find the thing that I want. And then I will sit down and just do 10 different versions of the same melody harmonized. So I will just try things out and then see which parts I like best and then puzzle them together, or maybe I will stumble upon the perfect progression that I really like. Or sometimes if you're scoring a movie, you're gonna need variations anyway. So this is also a great way to prepare your theme and basically have variations ready to go once you're working on the film. You know, maybe you need a major version and a minor version and, you know, a jazzy version and, you know, whatever it is. So that's kind of nice to already have this, you know, melody and 10 different variations ready to go. And then you just have to pick one that is going to be like your main iteration of the theme. And then the other ones are just going to be secondary iterations of that theme. So here's just a melody fragment. It's not really a melody. It's a fragment. It's a like motif, phrase, whatever you want to call it. Let's just listen to that. right? That's it. And so if I now wanted to harmonize that, I would do exactly that thing. Every single note could theoretically be harmonized, doesn't have to. And every note, for starters, could be the root third or fifth, or if I want to go spicier, any of the other ones, obviously. So here's the first version I did, option 1, with a nice ascending bass as well, but that was kind of just by accident. Right, so I chose this one in A minor to start in A minor, so the C would be the third, minor third, and I chose to harmonize every note. You can always slim it down later on if you don't want every note harmonized. Then I was like, okay, what if I start in C major, where the C would be the root? Right, also fairly straightforward chord progressions right here. So then I was like, okay, so what if I want the C to be the fifth, and that would make it F major or F minor. In this case, I started in F major. And what if I started with the third and the bass? So you can see I also tried to not always have the root as the bass note, but also I tried some, you know, spicier extended chords and see what happens. I quite like that. Might be a bit weird in a movie. I don't know. It would be a cool variation to have. And then option 4, I decided, what if I start with F minor and with C is the fifth, and I didn't harmonize every note. I cheated a little in this one because I ended up on this kind of secondary dominant thing, and then I was like, nah, I really like that actually, and I wanted to go somewhere. But so I had to alter the melody a little bit, which is fine. It's an alternate version of it anyway. So, and here we have like some nice modal interchange. It's this romantic thing right here, F minor, C major. I have a video prepared on modality and modal interchange. Let's not get into it right now. But it's what makes this part so romantic, basically. Option 5, I started in A flat major, where the C would be the major third. This is a bit weird, but, you know, it's a variation, it's fine. And then I got another option here. This is basically the first option we heard, where we start in A minor, but I wanted to also showcase an example where I'm using prepared dissonances. Remember last video? Was it last video? I think the last composition one was about prepared dissonances. So once I have my my chord progression that I like, I will also then start to use that prepared dissonance technique and see if there are any that I like and that I want to keep. So that's this example, basically. had a solo cello playing there, so we can hear the prepared dissonances a little bit better. And that's it. That's how I do it. And then, yeah, after the fact, you can go in and analyze and like see how the chords relate and why they work and why some of them don't work. You know, now I could go in with my music theory and kind of backwards analyze. Like if there's a portion that I like and then there's a portion that doesn't work, I could now with the theory figure out why it doesn't work, why the chords don't relate to one another. But again, this is kind of something that I feel like is easier to do after the fact. This approach to me is easier from the front. So I tend to work kind of in both sides, you know, forward and backward. And then somewhere in the middle, I find the chord progression and the melody that I actually really like and that I want to use for the movie. But yeah, a lot of it is trying things out. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll continue to aggravate people with music theory and other controversial topics. Go practice.